Morning, lads. I've been thinking about the thing with the relationships, the current relationships, the exes, the whole shebang. And I'm probably gonna spend most of this watching random videos and occasionally saying something out loud. Hello, watcher. And I'm just thinking here. I had a thought that I wanted to share, but it doesn't quite feel appropriate. And it was a thought about how to properly determine whether something is a mental illness or an opinion or a belief or what have you. But time has passed that thought in that it is no longer feeling important for me. And there are some thoughts that I've been thinking about. I was thinking about the past relationship I was in, and it's been a long time, but it still occasionally pops into my head, and I just realized something weird when I was thinking about it. For the whole time that I was in the relationship, I always paid for the rent. Most of the times, I also paid for the food. And while in my place, we used my computers. And she was around 20 and I was around 25. And I'm just sitting here thinking, she was on Social Security and got paid the same that I did from Social Security. Sometimes the really obvious truth is staring you in the face and you just kind of sort of brush it aside. So I've been putting off getting my ass back into the relationship market because I've been thinking of whether or not I need to basically adjust myself, check myself before I wreck myself, and whether or not the things that were implied or said in the relationship about my mentality, if you will, are stuff that are actually true, something that I do need to work on, or whether or not I was just in a bad relationship. And I can think of times where I feel it likely that she cheated. I have acquaintances after the separation who sent me messages saying that they had video of it, and I was like, God damn it, and I never watched them. But suffice it to say, I have my belief that she cheated. And there are times when I was unfaithful in thought, but I didn't cheat. I was too romantically into other people while in the relationship. So I've been thinking whether or not they were feeding on each other, whether or not I was causing this trouble and what amounts to infidelity by my own actions. And these kinds of thoughts for a schizophrenic go back and forth, takes a while, and they just slush like water back and forth. Eventually, there is a consensus on what is the truth, but I have not been able to come to it. But when I randomly talking about something else realized that, hey, I actually paid for near everything, I just sat back for a while and thought,
stress the heck out of me. I heard the advice early on that it's my job as a parent to slowly work my way out of the picture. Best parenting advice ever. I love my kids and provide well for them and protect them from calamity. But at 9 and 11 they can cook their own meals when needed, do their own laundry, go to the park on their own. It's only a block away. They can also meet an adult and look them in the eye and shake their hand. They order for themselves in restaurants. We include them in major family decisions. Their opinions are listened to and respected. They're free to make their own mistakes and do. It's tough. It's brutal. I worry like heck every single time they get on their bike and drive down the driveway. But we prepared them. They wear a helmet and know the rules. Now I got to back the F off. For them. I'd love to have my kids leave me forever. But that's what pets are for. Not children. It's your job to slowly work your way out of the picture. Brutal. But that's love. You beat the parenting game. Honestly, just an anxious mess. Every job I've had, I've been constantly afraid I'll mess something up and be a disappointment. It's honestly paralyzing. Eventually, when I got married, I just kind of gave up on having a career and became a housewife. Still constantly anxious I don't measure up, but at least my husband is willing to reassure me. Once you realize people can't survive being disappointed and it doesn't really matter in the end, you'll really free yourself. I can answer this. I'm scared of my parents, specifically my dad. I'm the youngest in my family and grew up conditioned to always be a delicate little flower who had to be protected at all costs. As I grew older and by them being particularly strict about what I could or couldn't do, my adult brain registered the couldn't do's as threats to my safety. It's caused me a lot of issues. Here's a list. I have to separate personas around people. When I'm with friends, I swear a lot. I joke around. I deliberately try to pee them off for a laugh. I'm not afraid to admit I enjoy playing video games or watch cartoons. Near my parents, I'm as quiet as a mouse. Even when I do speak near them, I don't swear or try anything to bother them. I can't bring myself to update my social media where my parents can see it because I'm frightened they'll come in and tell me I have a bad opinion or I should delete my posts. If something minor is even put up, it gets taken down. As a result of being scared of my dad, I developed a severe anxiety disorder revolving around riding in his car as a passenger. Sick, you'll be mad. And that happens frequently. I'm getting better at not having a panic attack in his car. Gradually, they are so deluded in seeing me as a delicate little flower that they fail to encourage or acknowledge my real interest in playing video games. Like it's embarrassing to them. I do my best not to bother them by playing my games very discreetly. It's impolite to be loud. I listen to the TV at the lowest volume. I've trained myself to burp by breathing it out through my nose so it's silent. People around me can belch loudly if they wanted. I don't know how to anymore. If I accidentally make any sort of unsavory sound, I have to apologize profusely. I'm afraid of the outside world and dark. Even at twilight, I was forbidden from riding a train home at 5 p.m. to protect me from scary people. But now, I'm always frightened. It makes it difficult to go out in public at night without constantly being on edge. It's made people who are just having fun drinking with friends look like monsters who intend to kill me instead. I'm too anxious to drink because I don't want to disappoint my parents, and all drunk people are dangerous and intend to hurt you. I'm seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and both of them told me my mental health will improve drastically when I move out. They say right now, I am an independent adult, but I'm very much a robot conditioned at a young age to stay safe to the point of never really experiencing the world and learning to make mistakes, so as a result I am always anxious and terrified of disappointing my parents. My best friend grew up with controlling helicopter parents, and there's a lot of things she never learned because they never taught her. My husband and I have been teaching her basic financial literacy because her parents never helped her build credit, never let her have her own bank account, never let her apply for a credit card. They controlled everything, so she had to unlearn a mindset of spending any money you do have on hand ASAP. She also struggled with honesty. In her household, lying was second nature. The best way to get out of any problem was to lie. This caused a lot of problems for her because she would like to fix things, cover things, and get out of things in her other relationship. That took a long time and a few destroyed relationships to really unlearn. She also struggles with impulse control. She's much better now, but she used to make a lot of bad choices simply because she could. She wouldn't stop to think through if it was a good idea or not. We're in our late 20s, and my husband and I have served as a lot of her safety net and support over the years. Her relationship with her parents and herself have gotten way healthier, so now she's living on her own, supporting herself, and making smarter choices, but those early 20s were a rough time. It sounds like she is very lucky to have friends like you who are willing to be that bridge, so that she's not just flung into the world with no help whatsoever. Unwilling, unable to make decisions. I didn't do that because nobody directed me to. Doesn't take a single step without getting specific approval from someone. No problem solving ability whatsoever. Just waits around to be told exactly what to do. Anxiously runs around till someone tells what to do. Well, at least that's what it's like in my case. LOL. I know several graduates of a high-end private preparatory high school who have said that, by age 30, they attended more funerals than weddings for their former classmates because the suicide rate was so high. They all had helicopter parents and took any sort of setback in their lives as a failure because they lacked any sort of coping skills. Reminds me of the movie Dead Poets Society. One of my cousins had the worst helicopter parents. Her mother took her to school and for the entire year, waited outside the classroom door while class was in session. The next year she volunteered as a teacher's assistant for baby's class. This went on until baby graduated high school and applied for college, out of town. Mom and dad sold their house and bought a new one in the town where baby was going to college. Twice. They did this twice. Baby is a well-adjusted young lady. She's lovely. Has a college degree and is in training to become a helicopter pilot. I'm not even kidding. The helicopter baby is becoming a helicopter pilot. The best outcome. My ex has an overly doting mother. He couldn't crisis manage, troubleshoot, or handle anything on his own. He also only trusted her advice. I suggested something. He refused. She suggested the same thing and he obliged. He lacked motivation to do better for himself. Look for a better job. Get our own place, etc. because his mom always took care of him financially. He had no faith in his abilities or talent because he never had the chance to prove to himself he could handle anything. Oh, I think we had the same ex. It's crazy how often this seems to happen. Anxious, suffocated. Helicopter parents have this unrealistic expectations but refuses to accept that their children are now adults. I'm 23. Last year I rented an apartment near work. I could finally breathe properly, but still I have to text her when I step out of the unit, when I reach the office, when my shift is done and when I finally got home. If I forgot to text, or if my message didn't go through, she won't stop calling me until I answer. The signal in my apartment is poor, so I really have to go outside to get a single bar. One time she kept calling me but I was asleep. And since there's almost no signal, then I'm not receiving any of her calls. When I finally went out, that's when my phone rang. She told me she's already on her way to my workplace just because I didn't answer her calls. Now my hand shakes and my heart always drops when I hear a text or call, even if it's not from her. That's how my mother is affecting me. I had one working for me at an architecture firm as an intern. Gave her work that was slightly challenging for someone starting out, where she had to figure some things out on her own. Failed miserably. Resorted to giving her red lines to pick up. Literally a printout of a drawing with red pen showing what needed to be changed. Move this wall over 8 inches. Fix this typo, etc. She finished about half of the changes and brought it back down. I went back and told her the way to track her work was to go over the red marks with a highlighter, and she finished each change to make sure she picked it all up. Still brought it back partly done, but with highlights indicating she had done all of it. Couldn't understand why that was a problem. She wasn't dumb. Just couldn't fathom that no one would be picking up after her, or that errors in the drawings could cost tens of thousands of dollars in lost time and materials down the line. It all fell into place for me the second day, when she drove up in a new car her parents had bought for her. She had been driving it for a month. I had been thinking of getting a similar car, so I asked her what she thought of it. Was it designed well? Were there any annoying features? All she could tell me was that the brakes were sticky, but I kind of gave up on her after that. If she had been inexperienced but wanted to learn and asked questions and made an effort to get things right, I would have put in the efforts to teach her. Oh man, I supervised someone like that a while ago. She wasn't stupid, but her quality of work was terrible and full of errors. Nothing we could say was effective in getting her to turn an error-free work. No idea she had helicopter parents, though. 28 years old with highly abusive helicopter mom. Up until she died 4 years ago, my life was an anxious mess. I never had to think for myself as a kid since she was the one always deciding who I got to hang out with or what my future should look like. I slowly started rebelling when I left for college 1,000 kilometers away, but I didn't free myself from her grip until she died. I have absolutely no ambitions. I finished college and studied what she wanted me to do. I have zero interest in my career and could not care less about continuing my education. I'm a doctor, so this should be important. But I just don't care. I am super lazy. I procrastinate a lot. I was used from a young age to have her breathing down my neck, making sure I got stuff done. So now that she's gone, I see no reason to make the effort. I have a really hard time making decisions. I'll get really anxious and I almost always need someone else to help or validate me. I also get very, very anxious when I have to turn someone down, tell someone something that's bothering me, or just stand up for myself in general. And this has been an issue with myself. This could be because of her abuse and not because of her helicoptering though. I also have a really hard time being okay with disappointing people. My mom would lose her crap if I failed her. She would get really hurtful and sometimes she would resort to physical violence. I will do stuff I don't want to just to avoid feeling I'll let someone down. This is a hard one because not only have I done projects or chores I didn't want to, I have also done sexual things with partners I did not feel comfortable with just to avoid them thinking I am not good enough. Working on this though. Lastly, because my mom was so overbearing, when I finally left for college I realized the best way to get her off my back was to lie. I would lie to her all the time. About my grades, me friends, the people I dated. If I thought that something would bother her just a little bit, I lied. Now I still struggle with this. I lie to my dad, my friends and myself. Not big bad lies like ripping them off or cheating or whatever, but I will find myself continually sugarcoating things, leaving important details out or just right out inventing things. For example, I lost my wallet a few weeks ago because I was goofing around. But I told my son and my dad that I had been robbed just so I didn't have to hear them tell me I should be more careful. I don't even plan on lying. It comes out on its own and then I would look bad if I corrected myself. It's pretty good now. I have their own dreams and ambitions and wonder how that must feel. I just float through life with no real goal except getting my paycheck so I can buy something, go out to eat, get a present for myself. Buy something, go out to eat, get a present is an ambition. Ambitions don't have to be big. I give you permission to have small ambitions. For me, my small ambitions have slowly gotten big, built success with the small things. My goal for this year is to adopt a dog, my biggest goal yet. My cousin is a nervous ball of wax. Despite an Ivy League undergrad and a law degree from Cardozo that my uncle and aunt paid for and pushed him on for the first 25 years of his life, he makes less money than a Pandora employee. Yep. Even as a lawyer, he can't get a decent firm associate position because he's a nervous mess. He is deeply closeted, and would feel a lot better if he just admitted he was gay and sucked a dong now and then. Instead, he's hiding under the guise of Orthodox Judaism and wondering why every religious friend of his is married with 3-5 kids apiece by the time they're 32. He should watch an awesome TV series called Shtisel, about this guy with a controlling father who struggles his way to his own choices. It just might, maybe, inspire him to seek some autonomy. Actually, anyone should. There's a lot more to it than I described, but don't want to spoil things. There were 2 seasons. Meant to be filming 3 now, but, you know, sigh. I dated a girl who was an only child and had a helicopter mom. She couldn't make decisions, had to talk to her mom daily, before cell phones, and was pretty much a narcissist. She cheated on me. I guess her mom told her to always look for something better. We talked once about 20 years later on Facebook. She was still single, and after about 3 back and forth updates, she made some crappy comment about my wife, whom she had never met, so I blocked her immediately. She got married around age 45, I guess because her last name was changed on LinkedIn. And what is funny is that her married name is something horrible, like Foka. Poor guy. Her married name is something horrible, like Foka. I met them once. My wife has helicopter parents and I constantly have to argue with them. We are in our mid-30s. When we visit, they planned our itinerary to the 15-minute block. Stopping for lunch as a family is not allowed unless previously approved. They have tentacles that reach out their churches to check on us. When my daughter was born, a stranger to us came up to us in a restaurant, picked up our newborn and walked away with her. I had to chase her down. She told me my wife's mother had told her to do so. She was over 1,000 miles away. We attended their church once. Again, we are in NC and they were in Maine. A strange family came up and questioned why my wife uses a breast pump and told her it makes her less of a mother. There is no way they could have known without someone telling them. My wife's siblings are all struggling. Can't do anything for themselves. I own their cars and they make payments to me. I pay for their car insurance. During one medical emergency while I was at work, the parents called their friends at church to go get my daughter and no one called me. When I finally heard from my wife, we didn't know where my child was. Grandma had control. Sounds like you should have pressed charges. That was kidnapping. I dated a guy like this. I was 49 years old. He was 57. He resented his parents, always complained about them. He could not make decisions, so never made one. It was up to me to make all the dating plans. He was helpless in that he had no life skills. He was laid off from his mechanical engineering job and could no longer afford rent. So I took pity on him and let him move in with me. But he could not cook or clean and expected me to do all that work for him. Even after all that, he started resenting me, probably because he was so dependent on me. I kicked him out and he's now living with his parents. That was 4 years ago and he's still there, still resenting them. Child-free and an absolute freak up and failure. Still trying to make up for lost time of my adolescence and I'm almost 30. I'd rather be dead some days. Thanks for asking. Bruh, same. I think I might want kids someday, but I'm so worried that I'll mess them up the same way that my parents messed up my brother and me. I'm almost 30 and I still feel like a scared little kid. Frick. Had a helicopter mom. I moved away for college. I had a tear-off calendar that I made for the last 6 months before college. Safe to say college was amazing. Drank like a fish. Did lots of drugs. Almost didn't make it through college. Anyways, somehow made it through residency, so my mom got what she wanted in the end, I guess. But this was also my own choice because I love medicine. I've interviewed them for work. I will not likely ever hire one. When they ask for their parents to join the interview, yes, they do that. I know a couple things. First, they will not have any idea what confidential means for our corporate info. Mom and dad will get it all, including client information. Second, they will not be reliable to do anything at all on their own. They will have to be walked through everything. In short, they tend to be extremely unhireable for the roles I interview them for. The technical term is disasters, I think. They are often utterly incompetent at life, both personally and professionally. Adults with helicopter parents. Know a few. They moved away to college and parents followed and moved where they moved and but then move in with them. Mid-20s and parents run their lives same as when they were teenagers. Looks in mirror. Pretty dang sexy if I do say so myself. JK. All that middle school and high school awkward, it's worse in college. When I was 18 I just left. They didn't have legal guardianship. They couldn't say crap. Things were rocky for a couple of years but so worth the freedom. As I got married and had kids they tried to be controlling over them and my spouse and I set extremely firm boundaries and made it clear that they would never see any of us again if they played that game with me. I was about 2 seconds away from filing a restraining order when they finally got the message. Unfortunately, I have to use their tactics against them and threaten extreme things in order to get them out of our personal lives. The one thing I took away from all of that is with people like that, you have to be willing to fight and accept that you may very well have to cut them completely out of your life. Here's a tip. You have to train your helicopter mom. Mine wasn't anywhere near as bad as some of these posts. She's a pretty good mom, but she called all the time in college. like every day. Ultimately, I jokingly said the opposite of what she wanted to hear. Mom, what are doing? Me nothing. Is $100 a decent price for an 8-ball of Coke? Mom, what are doing? Me nothing. Is viral meningitis super contagious? Mom, what are doing? Me just drugs. She knew I was joking, but eventually, she called less because I wasn't giving her the feedback she wanted. My sisters didn't do this. They still get called every day. Kids with helicopter parents can grow to become jaded because of so many missed opportunities. Granted, some things they may have missed out or may have very well saved their lives, but there is still that regret. It's important to create some distance as you grow up if you find yourself under this type of roof, not simply to get away from your parents, but to grow as a person. You will get older and your parents won't always be there to make every decision for you. It is important to learn how to steer the rudder under normal circumstances because it does not take a lot of time before the tides change. My cousin works as a HR person, so she is responsible for much of the first interviews for new hires. More than a few times people will bring a parent with them for the interview. We are not talking about teens, we are talking about fully grown individuals attempting to get a full-time career. It's kind of sad. This happened to me. Mum stays in the lobby while a 25-year-old child interviews. I once had a parent call me to lobby on behalf of their child. I did not hire them. Hello. Helicopter parent child here. I kinda went wild when I got away from them. Not completely off the shoots doing drugs, party every night wild. But I go to a lot of parties. Smoke pot. It's legal here. And skateboard. All things my parents wouldn't let me do. I have read it now, which I couldn't even think of getting back in the day. It's probably not wild to your standards, but to me I would be grounded for the rest of my life if my parents knew about this stuff. I guess I do it to catch up on all the stuff I couldn't do when I was younger. I feel free, my mans. Still trying to get my kid to step up. We hover, but encourage him to go out and do dumb things, cause that's the only way you learn how to manage dumb things. He's 18. Hey, can I go out with my friends? You are 18. A high school graduate and have a full-time job. Why are you asking me? Don't forget to take your meds and remember that if you stay out too late you'll pay for it tomorrow. Have fun. This isn't helicopter. This is healthy parenting. Encouraging them to make mistakes and learn from those themselves. Helipods. Parents just continue to use them if the child didn't cut them off. Worst case scenario, they live with their parents and are unemployed. Their looks are predominated by indecisiveness, a slighter thinner or bigger build, and usually with a hobby that seems inexpensive at first, but gradually becomes unbearable. They also end relationships and friendships based on their parents' decisions. If they had cut off their parents, then they are almost a normal adult, almost because their parents keep pestering their life every day till they die. But what is beautiful about them is that they will usually never do what their parents did. It never stops. You can never truly feel free or independent. Even when you are making close to 800 or 1,000 a week, are successful, have your own things going on, etc. It never stops. There's always this weird thing. I am not sure if it's overprotective, it's just odd. Failure to launch syndrome is something I mainly work with in my clients as a therapist. Lots of avoidance and conflict, not able to do basic life skills, executive functioning defects, and parents still overly involved in their lives well into adulthood. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe.
Life and are looking for confirmation that it's bad enough to seek help. If you're not concerned, my advice is not directed at you. No one is saying that being content with having no interpersonal connections is inherently pathological. Procrastination researcher here and a psychologist. About 20% of the general population, globally, procrastinate to a problematic extent. Roughly 50% in a university academic setting. When it starts to adversely affect your mood, self-esteem, relationships, or you think you could perform substantially better if you procrastinated less, then it's a problem. Cognitive behavioral therapy is relatively effective, but takes time and investment. Best way to deal with it is, 1. Only look at the next small step you need to take and do that thing. 2. Take time to think about how important the task is to you, and how good you'll feel when you make some progress. And 3. Generally keep a mental note of the things that distract you and focus on what you have to do to better regulate those things. This is not an exhaustive list. If anyone plays video games, browses social media, watches TV, or does any other form of electronic media for more than 3 hours a day, days off work are exempt, then there is a high probability of an underlying issue causing the behavior. A true addiction to video games is estimated to only be 1% to 5% of people who are already playing 2 to 3 plus hours daily. That means anyone else you think has an addiction actually has a high chance of comorbid disorders, and gaming is the outlet. This can be a ton of things such as depression, anxiety, escapism, PTSD, extreme introversion, lack of ambition or motivation, work stress, relationship stress, and much more. Reach out to people you know who may sit in bed watching Netflix for hours, always on social media, or playing lots of games. Chances are they don't do that because they are truly wanting to. Thinking that 5 hours of sleep per night is okay. Poor sleep is usually a symptom of something more serious like depression or anxiety. Our bodies are often not as well at hiding things as our minds are. The thing is, our brains trick us into thinking we are fine when we are sleep deprived. If you do any cognitive task on 5 hours of sleep, you will think you did fine, but in actuality, you will do pretty badly. The reason you have a habit of overshooting to 10 to 12 hours is almost certainly because you are sleep deprived and your body really wants you to sleep longer. Depression and anxiety don't always feel exactly like you expect. I assess so many people who don't report a lot of the more obvious mood signs but sleep like 4 to 6 hours a night, eat 1 to 2 meals a day, have no energy and can't focus. That's not normal people. Rakkaudesta tekemiseen. Viihdytema.
Maista uutuusvanukkaat suklaanugaa ja vanopee ilman makeutusaineita.
People normalize toxic behaviors by loved ones all the time. Being able to identify your own personal boundaries and then enforce them with others for your own well-being is, unfortunately, not innate. When your partner downplays your interests and only encourages you towards things they think you should be interested in. When your partner constantly interrupts your flow of conversation and does all the talking, which soon amounts to all the decision-making. When your partner ignores or gives muted appreciation for the nice things you do but blows your mistakes and faults way out of proportion. When your partner draws on your deepest insecurities to win arguments. Therapist here. If you grew up with or currently are a part of a family where the whole family has to work to keep one or more members of the family in a good mood or appeased, that's not healthy. People are in charge of their own feelings. It is not your job to appease others so that they can emotionally regulate themselves. Someone replied, that was me growing up. Everyone had to make Dad happy. Never knew if something was going to set him off. And when we pissed him off, it would go on for weeks. Outbursts, throwing breakable items, verbally degrading you, and sometimes it would get physical. And then he would use us like therapists, telling us all the traumatizing stuff he went through as a child and expecting them to explain his behavior. He'd be the first to admit that he needed therapy and medication but never did anything about it. Fortunately, he's no longer in my life. Perfectionism. All a spectrum and everyone wants to do good work. An obsession with perfection is not something to be proud of and definitely not healthy. Healthy work ethic is doing your best, and then letting go, as in recognizing no matter how much effort you put in, the result is, to some extent, out of your control, and that's okay. The intent and effort counts more than the end result. If you get obsessed with the end result only, you will hurt yourself because you never have full control over your end result. But you do have full control over the intensity and dedication you will put in, even if that doesn't translate well. It is a fact of life, sometimes things don't work out. So people who never, and I mean never, have anything less than flawless work all the time are paying for it somehow. Burnout or mental stress or overtime or medication or drugs to keep going or etc. It is pathological to want, or to think you can realistically have, such control that your work is flawless all the time. Shadow people. One question we asked was if they ever saw, heard or smelled anything others didn't. This came up more often than you might think. There are visual hallucinations and visual misperceptions. The latter are those strange things you glimpse from the corner of your eye, or in shadows or fog. It's a calculation error in the pattern recognition system of the brain. Humans generally try to find recognizable shapes and patterns in chaos. Kids are more prone to such errors because their brains are still busy developing and pruning the most used pathways. Jumping at shadows when there's nothing there calms down as the brain realizes there's never anything there. Hallucinations have a very different quality. They're often more persistent, like you can actually turn your head and they're still there. Or you see the same thing over and over, and they're interactive. They don't necessarily speak, but they cause a greater response than just that initial scare. They watch, judge, demand something. They cause longer lasting effects than the jump scares. All senses can misfire or cause hallucinations. The feeling of bugs crawling under your skin is nasty. Thinking the doorbell rang when it didn't is normal. Hearing a voice that comments or judges negatively, your every action isn't. Negative self-talk. We talk to ourselves way worse than any person could. One little thing that is common in my field, engineering, and many others is imposter syndrome. I don't know the finer details, but it can be boiled down to believing that you can't do work good enough to reach others' expectations or your own. This causes self-doubt and other mental problems. From my own experience, it can be confused for being extremely humble. Please watch others for this behavior because it can become very destructive if it manifests for too long. If one of these people shows you something they are proud of, then it's because they worked extremely hard on it, want others to enjoy it with them. It wouldn't say I suffer from it. To be fair, I probably wouldn't admit it if I do, but I do struggle with it from time to time. Know your self-worth. Self-sabotaging behavior can ruin your life quickly. If you have an event in your life that has affected you negatively and you seem to find yourself exhibiting irrational or incongruent behaviors, see a counselor. You don't have to have any certain pathology to seek mental wellness counseling. That's super important. My girlfriend thinks that because she's not crazy, she doesn't need therapy. Although the last year or so she's been calling more and more into depression. For people who've never experienced this kind of thing, or gotten treatment for it, it's hard to make them understand. I've seen a lot of people dismiss their depression/other mental illness because it's not that bad or other people have it worse or I should be able to handle it on my own. You shouldn't have to suffer through mental illness even if you technically can. You deserve to be happy, and therapists and psychiatrists are there to help you learn how to help yourself. It's not a weakness to find someone who can assist you in figuring out coping skills or prescribe you medications to help fine-tune your brain's neurotransmitters. Some things I see regularly that could have been caught earlier before they became a problem. Unhealthy coping mechanisms. For example, drinking to relax frequently or smoking a lot. Even something like promiscuity can be a red flag that a person is trying to avoid dealing with something stressful by distracting themselves. Normal child or teen behaviors that are not actually normal, like running away or getting into fights. Not communicating. When this happens, something is usually wrong. Not always, as some folks are quieter than others. But if a child, teen, adult rarely speaks, or if they are silent in the presence of their parent or significant other, it's time to get them to see a professional alone to have their safety assessed. I've seen individuals who are literally shut down due to having been profoundly mistreated by the people they live with, and one of the main signs of that is silence. I've also seen people in perfectly good homes who cannot communicate due to extreme anxiety, and without professional help it's hard for them to overcome this. Mood swings. When a person's moods change from one extreme to another fairly often, that is another concerning symptom. Sometimes they are considered eccentric or hormonal, but that sort of thing can be a sign of many problems, from bipolar disorder to post-traumatic stress disorder. When one human being puts himself on the top of the hierarchy, it's the big ego causing this thinking. Humans are in a straight line with nature and animals, because that's what an ecosystem means. And when somebody puts himself on the top of the pyramid, then we have a serious damage in processing and realizing that nature is the most powerful thing and that we are equal to everything that lives on this planet. Those people usually are very shallow and materialistic, narcissistic, and their conscious is fellow animals' conscious. They have it in a small traces, sadly. It's eco, not ego. Rage and anger outbursts. I'm shocked by how much bad behavior during an adult tantrum is written off with little or no concern. Oh, that's just how he gets when he gets mad. He'll calm down. No, adults should be able to regulate their anger and handle it appropriately. Everyone gets angry. That is totally normal. But we shouldn't find ourselves escalating so easily and responding in ways we later regret. Social anxiety. Yes, this. I'm not formally diagnosed, but if I don't have SAD, then the sky isn't blue. It's an absolutely debilitating pathology that robs you of a lot of healthy experiences, like building relationships, both personal and professional, and forming new, important memories. There's a behavioral component to it as well. Social anxiety disorder can impede you from engaging in healthy behaviors, like going to the gym, or it can impede you from discovering new hobbies or interests. Basically, social anxiety disorder is a bandit that robs your self-growth. It's absolutely worth seeing a therapist for, something that I've neglected to do and have suffered for it. Excessive self-deprecation, avoidance of everyday situations, and an inability to regulate emotions. I think it is vitally important for everyone to seek therapy, despite how mentally healthy you are. Therapy tends to bring out issues that people don't realize they have, which helps them live healthier and happier lives. Drinking behaviors, either their own or those of loved ones. I won't speak to what's normal, but it is definitely not ideal to polish off a bottle of wine or a six-pack every few days to relax/unwind/deal with stress. To need a drink or nightcap in the evenings, can't fall asleep without it. Binge drink most weekends, even if you don't drink during the week. Lots of people don't think twice about these types of drinking habits, especially if they have not suffered any huge negative consequences as a result. But I've noticed that with drinking patterns like I've described. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to learn more about psychology. Click the right box for the
Hi guys, I'm back. You may be wondering why I am on this screen. Quite simple. I actually played quite a bit of Dragon Age before, and this time I was recording my sound. It was perfect, but I wasn't recording the footage. Yes, I know, I'm an idiot. I have slapped myself over the head a couple of times, but it doesn't do anything. So yeah, what I did, I did all of the Wending Wood things. So yeah, I feel really stupid, really stupid. So I'm going to do another quest first because I just don't want to do that straight away all again. I might actually have gotten some, what's it called? Injury kits? Not enough yet though. Some injury kits for the quests. I think I just can buy all of them here, to be honest. Oh, no, I don't want it. No, don't sell anything. You? so let's go back to the world map. And wait, do I still have quested in here? City of Overrun? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we can do this one. Catwalks above the city. There should be a note right over here. Because I did this last time as well. I really feel so stupid, guys. I mean, God.
Now's better than later.
Okay. Blah blah blah. Which element's failure to be blah blah. Abandoned house. Yes. We'll do that one first. Okay, guys. I truly hate what happened. Because you know, when you lose my audio footage, like the audio, just my voice, I can still show you guys something. But when I lose the actual footage of the game, it's just plain boring to listen to me talk about things that I see that you don't. So yeah, I feel stupid. No, no, no. We're going to the Black March first. I'll do parts of the Winding Woods, but not everything at once, because I seriously can't be bothered. And the thing is, I think there's some storyline going on there. I know you meet a new companion, so. But this is creepy. So. Yummy.
I'll get on it.
Beware the Black Marsh is haunted. Great. Well, I counted. Just say I'm scared. Sorry. Escape. See ya. That reminds me, now that I'm saying this, I've been to the vet with my dog. Fine. Gotta gain some weight, and she said I should not pay attention to it. This was only a kilo. It wasn't like fat. It was perfect.
How do the Templars always find you, Agnes? Incredibly angry. There must be some trick to it, surely. They began recruiting women. The male Templars never stopped to ask for direction. You're impossible to talk to. I do my best.
He's so funny. He's not that funny in a second, sadly. Okay, so there are tons of moves here. Another health bar. That's not possible then. We need one health.
Gonna go for a walk. Thank you for watching.